are in, and they are sad, they are bad, they are dreadful. If I'm TNT, Warner Bros., they gotta feel had at this point. Stewart Collier, Breanna Stewart, the hubby, they come to Warner Bros. Hey, we got this new 3-on-3 league that we're gonna start.
That's the sound of a league on the brink. Friday's ratings just plummeted. And if you're Breanna Stewart or Stewart Collier right now, you're staring at figures that should scare anyone, because Unrivaled isn't just struggling in its sophomore season, it's imploding. The executives at TNT and Warner Brothers who greenlit this experiment are now realizing they were sold a concept that doesn't actually exist. Let's break down what went wrong. Season 2's first week delivered disappointing numbers. Week 2 somehow dropped even further. And when Friday's results arrived, they confirmed what everyone feared but no one dared to admit. Without Caitlin Clark, this league simply doesn't have a crowd.
Please like the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Needless to say, the ratings have not been better. Friday's ratings come out, damn, 17 million for the college football playoff. But we scroll all the way down that screen, and you see Unrivaled. Breeze versus Hive, 30,000 viewers in the 18 to 49 demographic, with a total of 110.
Take another look at those figures. Breeze versus Hive drew just 30,000 viewers in the 18 to 49 demo, with total viewership at 110,000. Vinyl versus Rose told the same story. 30,000 in the key demo, 100,000 overall. Now here's what makes this brutal. Last year, those same Friday night slots were pulling 90,000 in the demo and 270,000 total viewers. That's a 60% drop in the demo and a 63% decline in total audience in just 1 year for a league that's supposed to be gaining traction. And before anyone blames competition, let's clear that up. Yes, the college football playoff was happening at the same time. But here's the truth. Those are entirely different audiences. Nobody planned to watch Unrivaled and then suddenly switch to Oregon versus Indiana. That's just not how it works.
Okay. Breeze versus the Hive, Kelsey Mitchell, and isn't Enrique on that team and somebody else on that team? Okay. Folks, do you want to know how bad that Breeze versus Hive game was? I didn't watch. Of course I didn't watch. Breeze Hive were a combined 1 for 26 from 3. You read that correctly. A combined 1 for 20.
In fact, the opposite argument actually holds more weight. Oregon crushed Indiana so decisively that the game was unwatchable by halftime. Viewers should have been hunting for alternative programming, and Unrivaled was right there, airing on TNT with professional basketball talent, but it still failed to grab the fleeing audience. That says everything about the product. When you can't even pull in sports fans actively searching for something else to watch, it's not a content problem. It's a fundamental lack of interest. Now, let's revisit the pitch that convinced TNT to greenlight the show. Multiple reports suggest that when Breanna Stewart and Stewart Collier presented the concept to Warner Brothers Discovery, the focus was heavily on star power, with the centerpiece being the league's biggest draw, Caitlin Clark.
1,000. Oh Lord. And before I even hear complaints, not by you guys, but from the masses, the college football playoff audience, they don't give a fuck about Unrivaled. So before people say, oh, of course the ratings are going to be down, the college football playoffs are on. Dude, nobody said, oh man, I would really love to watch Unrivaled today, but the college football playoffs are... No. Completely two different demographics, two different types of people. Stop. Cut it out. Shout out to Joey Gladstone. It ain't happening. It ain't happening. Maybe 50 people said that to themselves.
Consider this from an executive's point of view. You're being pitched a new 3-on-3 women's basketball league, set to air in January and February, the slowest months in the sports calendar. The founders are established WNBA stars, giving it instant credibility, and they promise Caitlin Clark will participate. Naturally, you sign on. Clark just turned women's college basketball into must-watch TV. the player who reliably drives ratings, turning 300,000 viewers into 3 million. So you write the check expecting her presence. Season 1 rolls out. No Caitlin Clark. Maybe she needed time after college, but with Sabrina and Angel Reese still in the mix, there's enough star power. Ratings are modest but acceptable for a debut season, so you hope for growth. Season 2 planning begins. Still no Caitlin Clark. Also missing, A'ja Wilson, arguably the second biggest draw, along with Paige Vickers and Sophie Cunningham. Then Sabrina bows out, and Angel Reese chooses other priorities, leaving the league scrambling.
Ratings. Quote, obviously, we want them to be consistently high no matter if we play on Friday or Saturday, Sunday or Monday. And know that we have a space on our own here and in the league of sports. People aren't typically used to seeing women's professional basketball at this time unless you're watching EuroLeague or something like that.
Now you're in an executive meeting, staring at a product that barely resembles what you thought you were buying. The star power you paid for isn't there. Ratings aren't just flat, they're plummeting, and you're tied to a broadcast contract for a league that can't even attract a crowd. And it gets worse. The basketball itself is almost unwatchable. In Friday's game, Breeze and Hive combined to make just one three-pointer out of 26 attempts. Let that sink in, one made 3 out of 26 tries between two teams. This isn't professional basketball. It's a YMCA rec league, and the audience can absolutely tell the difference.
Obviously, we want them to be consistently high no matter if we play on Friday or Saturday, Sunday or Monday. And know that we have a space on our own here and in the league of sports. People aren't typically used to seeing women's professional basketball at this time unless you're watching EuroLeague or something like that, so ratings is a huge one. Here's a news flash. Here's a news flash. People just still aren't used to watching women's basketball. Guilty for spilling the beans. Sorry, someone had to say it. People aren't used to it. It's not a habit. When Caitlin Clark, Caitlin Clark, and that league is still going on. Okay, let me pay attention a little bit. But it's not a habit. It's not a habit. The WNBA season starts here.
Now Breanna Stewart is out trying to spin this disaster, telling reporters that viewers just aren't used to watching women's professional basketball at this time of year unless they're following the EuroLeague. That statement perfectly exposes the delusion at the heart of the whole operation. Breanna, casual American sports fans aren't tuning into the EuroLeague. It's not a thing. You can't blame failing ratings on viewing habits that don't exist. The real issue isn't that people aren't used to January basketball, it's that they aren't interested in women's basketball without the players who make it compelling. Caitlin Clark's games were must-watch TV from day one. No adjustment period. No 3-season learning curve. The audience showed up immediately because the product was exciting. Unrivaled isn't compelling, and no amount of time will fix that if it lacks the stars fans actually want to see. And to make matters worse, Unrivaled made headlines this weekend for all the wrong reasons. A physician assistant from South Florida was arrested for trespassing at a medley event after refusing to leave, allegedly offering a police officer $5,000 to drop the charges and being found with suspected cocaine. I'm not saying this reflects on the league itself, but it's darkly ironic that someone apparently needed drugs just to survive an unrivaled game. The basketball is so dull that fans are turning to performance enhancers just to stay engaged. That's where this league stands. Terrible ratings, unwatchable basketball, star power that never arrived, and a few attendees landing in police reports. So, let's unpack what went wrong and why it matters for the future of women's basketball. This isn't just a failed league. It's a symptom of a long-standing misunderstanding in women's sports marketing. The pitch for Unrivaled was built on a misconception: the belief that professional players in a well-produced, network-covered league would automatically draw viewers. They assumed the barrier was access and presentation, not the actual content. That assumption is demonstrably, empirically wrong, and the ratings prove it. What actually drives viewership in women's basketball is individual stars with magnetic personalities and elite skills that casual fans want to watch in any context. Caitlin Clark is the prime example. When she plays, the audience follows her, whether it's Iowa versus Northwestern on a random Thursday or the WNBA Finals. A'ja Wilson has similar, if slightly lesser, appeal. Buckers is developing it. Angel Reese had it briefly before getting injured and then chose not to participate in Unrivaled second season. Sabrina Ionesco was building momentum too, but also opted out. Without these specific players, you're left with talented athletes that the general public neither knows nor cares about, and that simply isn't enough to draw an audience. The WNBA learned this lesson the hard way. In 2020, the league had its best season ever for ratings and attendance, but the growth was almost entirely driven by games featuring Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Matches without them saw only modest increases, or in many cases, declines. Unrivaled assumed it could ride that momentum without the players who actually created it. That was the fatal flaw. You can't sell star power you don't have, and no marketing campaign or production value can manufacture interest in players fans aren't invested in. The business implications are brutal. TNT and Warner Brothers reportedly paid seven-figure sums annually for broadcast rights, yet they're getting just 100,000 viewers per game. Numbers smaller than the audiences for infomercials or 90s sitcom reruns in the same slots. TNT could air a test pattern and likely get comparable ratings. That credibility problem for women's the fallout affects basketball as a whole. When leagues collapse this spectacularly, it reinforces the old stereotypes that women's sports aren't commercially viable and gives critics ammunition to claim women's basketball can't sustain professional leagues without massive subsidies. The frustrating truth? That's simply not true. Women's basketball can draw audiences, we've seen it happen, but only when the players who drive interest are actually involved. And in Unrivaled, they weren't. Why didn't they participate? That's the question nobody wants to answer. Caitlin Clark has never explained her decision in detail, though speculation points to wanting rest during the off-season and avoiding injury before her second WNBA campaign. That's reasonable, but there's likely more. Clark is savvy enough to know that tying herself to a league that could fail might damage her brand, and that her involvement would be leveraged to sell the league to networks and sponsors, leaving her blamed if it flopped. So she stayed away, protected her value, and let Unrivaled rise or fall on its own. Now it's falling, and the founders who built the league on star power they couldn't secure are facing the consequences. Breanna Stewart's comments about viewer habits reveal another major flaw: the disconnect between what the founders think they're offering and what audiences actually want. Stewart seems to believe timing and familiarity will create viewers' habits, but modern media doesn't work that way. People don't form habits around content they find boring. They simply tune out. Infinite entertainment options available audiences today have zero patience. If your product isn't immediately compelling, they move on. No grace period. No adjustment phase. You either grab attention instantly or you don't. Unrivaled isn't grabbing it, and the second season performing worse than the first proves that time won't fix this. The trajectory is downward. So what does this mean for the future of women's basketball leagues? Unrivaled isn't the only alternative league trying to establish itself. There are other 3-on-3 leagues, international competitions, and various efforts to create pro opportunities outside the WNBA. The key lesson is clear: star power isn't transferable. You can't build a league on stars you don't have, and marketing can't manufacture interest if the talent and personality aren't compelling to casual fans. That's actually good news for the WNBA, whose established brand gives it a huge advantage. Stars there rarely replicate that success elsewhere. But it's bad news for player leverage. Unrivaled was supposed to give WNBA players alternative options to demand higher salaries or better conditions, but it isn't a credible competitor. Pay is lower, exposure is minimal, and now its ratings have collapsed, casting doubt on whether it will even survive. WNBA players are left where they started, dependent on one league with limited leverage. The cocaine arrest at a recent Unrivaled event is almost a perfect metaphor. Someone's so desperate to make a game interesting that they brought drugs, then so unwilling to leave that they offered a cop $5,000 to get out of trouble. That says everything about the league right now. Behavior of someone attending that's the sound of a league in crisis. Friday's ratings plunged, and if you're Breanna Stewart or Stewart Collier, the numbers should terrify you. Unrivaled isn't just underperforming in its second season, it's collapsing. Breeze vs. Hive drew just 30,000 viewers in the 18-49 demo. Vinyl vs. rose the same, compared to last year's 90,000 and 270,000 total viewers, a 60% and 63% drop in a single year. Competition excuses don't stick. Casual fans don't switch from Oregon versus Indiana to EuroLeague, and even when blowouts left fans searching for something to watch, Unrivaled failed to capture them. The product itself is unwatchable. Breeze and Hive combined for one made three-pointer out of 26 attempts. Star power promised to TNT and Warner Brothers never materialized. Caitlin Clark, Asia Wilson, Sabrina Ionesco, and Angel Reese all opted out, leaving talented athletes nobody outside hardcore fans knows or cares about. Executives were sold a vision of instant star-driven viewership, only to discover that the stars weren't there and ratings were free-falling. Spin attempts, like Stewart blaming viewer habits, expose a fundamental disconnect. Audiences don't form habits around boring content. They want stars with personality and skill, not generic talent in a slickly packaged league. The fallout is broader than one league. Failed ratings, poor basketball, and bizarre incidents like a fan's cocaine arrest at a game paint a league in wreckage. TNT paid seven-figure rights fees for 100,000 viewers, less than infomercials or 90s sitcom reruns, creating a money-losing proposition with no path to profitability. Unrivaled either folds or shrinks to a smaller platform, leaving the WNBA's established brand dominant and its players without alternative leverage. The tragedy is that this could have been avoided. Marketed honestly as an off-season developmental league, expectations would have aligned with reality. Instead, Stewart and Collier promised revolutionary star-driven entertainment, failed to deliver, and now face the consequences. Credibility hit, networks and sponsors misled, and a cautionary tale about over-promising and under-delivering. Star power isn't transferable, marketing can't manufacture interest, and without the players fans actually want, Unrivaled isn't the future. It's a failed experiment that reinforces every negative perception about women's basketball as a commercial product. This was a fundamental misrepresentation that's the sound of a league in crisis. Friday's ratings plunged, and if you're Breanna Stewart or Nafisa Collier, the numbers should terrify you. Unrivaled isn't just underperforming in its second season, it's collapsing. Breeze vs. Hive drew just 30,000 viewers in the 18th to 49 demo. Vinyl vs. rose the same, compared to last year's 90,000 and 270,000 total viewers, a 60% and 63% drop in a single year. Competition excuses don't stick. Casual fans don't switch from Oregon versus Indiana to EuroLeague, and even when blowouts left fans searching for something to watch, Unrivaled failed to capture them. The product itself is unwatchable. Breeze and Hive combined for one made three-pointer out of 26 attempts. Star power promised to TNT and Warner Brothers never materialized. Caitlin Clark, Asia Wilson, Sabrina Ionesco, and Angel Reese all opted out, leaving talented athletes nobody outside hardcore fans knows or cares about. Executives were sold a vision of instant star-driven viewership, only to discover that the stars weren't there and ratings were free-falling. Spin attempts, like Stewart blaming viewer habits, expose a fundamental disconnect. Audiences don't form habits around boring content. They want stars with personality and skill, not generic talent in a slickly packaged league. The fallout is broader than one league. Failed ratings, poor basketball, and bizarre incidents like a fan's cocaine arrest at a game paint a league in wreckage. TNT paid seven-figure rights fees for 100,000 viewers, less than infomercials or 90s sitcom reruns, creating a money-losing proposition with no path to profitability. Unrivaled either folds or shrinks to a smaller platform, leaving the WNBA's established brand dominant and its players without alternative leverage. The tragedy is that this could have been avoided. Marketed honestly as an off-season developmental league, expectations would have aligned with reality. Instead, Stewart and Collier promised revolutionary star-driven entertainment, failed to deliver, and now face the consequences. Credibility hit, networks and sponsors misled, and a cautionary tale about over-promising and under-delivering. Star power isn't transferable, marketing can't manufacture interest, and without the players fans actually want, Unrivaled isn't the future. It's a failed experiment that reinforces every negative perception about women's basketball as a commercial product. A lot of people made business decisions based on promises that were never going to be kept. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you think I'm being too harsh on the founders, explain how 100,000 viewers for a league that was supposed to revolutionize women's basketball is anything other than a complete disaster.